Hello, my name is Sydney, and today I am here to talk about a couple of things. One, today is February, sorry I had to swallow there. Today is Monday, February 25th, and my last video, I was straight up crying, okay? I cut out a lot of it, but that video was filmed over a month ago, and while the things that I talk about in that video are still, they still ring true, it's still how I feel, something happened today that was it made today such a good day. And it relates to what I was talking about in that video. I can't say what it is right now. I guess kind of to take a step back. In my last video, one of the things I was talking about, feeling like I was living for somebody else and having trouble making a decision about something. And let's just say that the thing that happened today, this morning, definitely helped that. It's something that I did in December that is now coming to fruition now. And I did it back then because I wasn't sure kind of how I would want to move forward, and I wanted to give myself the option, right? I wanted to give myself an option, so, you know, if it worked out, then that would be great. Then I would have a path to go down, and I've taken control of my life again. But today was just such a good day. It started off really good this morning, and it was so hard to focus today because all I could think of was this thing. And so I'm just really happy about it, and I'm really happy. Once I've made a decision on this thing, I will let you know. Yeah, anyway, so a couple of things I've been working on lately with writing. Did I mention this yet? No, I'll have a video in the future. I guess maybe my next video is going to be about this, but I've been working on kind of a not short story, like a nonfiction kind of essay collection. And I'll get more into that in another video that I already filmed that will be going up after this, if that makes any sense. So basically, I've been working on some essays and some ideas for that. And then I have been working on Pitchfork. I've made a couple of really big changes to Pitchfork recently. I went to Barnes & Noble's with a couple of ideas kind of churning in the back of my mind. And I had my notebooks. This is my kind of everything writing notebook, and this is my second Pitchfork notebook because I finished the first one. Yeah, I'm so pumped about having finished a notebook. You don't even know. I've never done that before in my entire life. One of the major issues that I've been having with Pitchfork in the past is that it's super complicated plot, and it's so complicated to the point that it almost feels like it should be split in half like a duology. But this is only the first book in what is supposed to be a series, so you can't have, or I don't want the first book to be so complicated and it's only the first book. Do you know what I mean? It's just not quite working for me. And so I was trying to figure out all these ways to simplify this overcomplicated plot, and I think I came up with a couple of ideas. One of them is, of course, to move some elements from book one into a later book in the series, whether that's the second book, third book, or whatever. And I only currently envision this to be a 4-book series. It could be 3, I don't know, but we'll see. One of the elements is I guess like a pastime or a hobby or something that my character gets into now that will have a greater role in the plot in a later book. But I figure if it's going to be in a later book, it's really not until the 3rd book that she needs to kind of get into this activity, and so I might as well push that into book 2, and that way we can just kind of focus on some of the other elements that are already in play. So my character, as all main characters should do, makes things happen. There are certain events that happen, kind of like some big events throughout the book that she can make happen, that she already makes happen maybe in 2 different ways, and she doesn't need to make them happen in 2 different ways. I guess you only need 1 catalyst, right? You don't need 2 catalysts to make the same event happen. You only need 1 catalyst. And so this hobby that she has was one of the catalysts, and so taking that out will kind of simplify it, and then you already have this catalyst that's doing the job. And then the other kind of way to simplify is that I've been making certain scenes, or I'm in the process of brainstorming certain scenes that can pull double duty. So I mentioned this before when I was line editing this book, that certain scenes can do more. Like, instead of having 2 or 3 scenes essentially accomplish the same task, you can slim that down to just 1 scene. So that's kind of another way that I've been trying to simplify the plot. And then the other thing that's kind of helping me, I guess, to understand the way events unfold in this story is to look at causality. So causality, this event causes that event, which causes that event, things causing one another. And so I'm looking at causality, and so in my notebook I drew this list. if I can find it. So basically I write the very last event in the book. And then I kind of, on the line below, I say, okay, what happened to cause that event? And then I draw an arrow. You know, in Jack and the Beanstalk, I don't remember how the story ends, but let's say it ends with, you know, Jack is back in his village and he has the golden egg. Okay, what happened to cause that event to be the last event of the story? Okay, so the event that caused that would be that Jack stole the golden egg from the golden goose up in the castle, okay? And then you take us another step back. What happened to cause or to allow Jack to take the golden egg from the goose? He climbed the beanstalk. I don't know, you know, but you see what I'm saying? Like you start with the last major plot point and then you work backwards to figure out how events are caused. And if you find yourself kind of like straying into events that maybe are not central to the main plot, then you probably have an issue. So I kind of found myself almost doing that a couple of times, and then I had to sort of take a step back and figure out a different way to get there. So that's what I've been doing, and that's been helping me to kind of figure out, to kind of like understand on a very basic level what is happening in my story and why and how things are happening. So that way, when I look at trying to simplify the plot, I can see what events maybe don't need to be there. I can see what the main string of events are, and then everything else is sort of just feeds into it or is just filler. And you don't want too much, if any, filler. Okay, so that's enough about causality and simplifying the plot. Another thing, or rather I should say the other thing, the other big thing that I did with Pitchfork, which like, we're approaching controversial territory here. I changed the ethnicity of my main character, which, to be frank with you, I kind of do this all the time, like trying to figure out who my character is. You know, sometimes I just start out with like baseline whatever. Maybe I don't even know what ethnicity this person is. But like for me, figuring out a character's ethnicity is as important as figuring out their name, where they're from, their background. I feel like all of that feeds into each other because their ethnicity, their culture, where they're from feeds into like, okay, this is the kind of childhood that they had. These are the qualities that they have. This is their name. This is where their name came from and what it means. I feel like all that's really important and all that really feeds into each other. So it's important for me to know what the ethnicity is. So, but this time I changed the ethnicity of my main character, Amber. I have mentioned her on this channel. Full disclosure, Amber was white when I first got the idea for the story, and I kind of clung to that for so long just because I was so kind of familiar and used to her being that way. And then as I started to kind of like look into the backstories of other characters and I started to figure out this world that we're living in and to look into just different mythologies and whatnot, I kind of realized some other ethnic backgrounds that my character and her ancestors would have. I feel super silly talking about this for some reason. I started to think about this weekend, like, I feel like I could tell a better story in this case if I have the main character be my own ethnicity. Why didn't I start her off with my ethnicity? I don't know. You just kind of think about like, okay, I've heard this a lot from other authors of color, is that when they're growing up, they're only reading books where the main characters are, you know, white. You know, across the board, main characters tend to be pretty homogenous. In their head, when they're creating their first kind of initial stories as they become writers, you know, their main characters might be white because that's just what they've known. But then you see like own voices authors and authors of color like having main characters who are also main characters of color. And that's just really cool. It's cool that this is kind of the direction that we're shifting. Like now we're getting a more diverse spectrum of main characters and all the main characters are not exactly the same. Enough of that TED Talk, but anyway, so I decided to make my main character Amber my ethnicity. So now she's got ancestry from Barbados, which I do as well. My grandfather was from Barbados on my mom's side, and so I thought it'd be really cool, given some of the other aspects of the story and like some of like the history of Barbados, it just kind of seemed to really fit. And given that I changed my main character's ethnicity, and she's also half Bayesian, like I think I'm actually only, yeah, I'm a quarter Bayesian. My mom's grandfather is Bayesian, but my mom and my mom's mother are Guyanese. Bayesian is just what people call people from Barbados. And then the other half of her is kind of like more American, which is very generalized. And, you know, America has so many different roots, but in this case, I haven't quite figured out that side of it, but I've been looking into like her Bayesian roots and like her grandmother and everything like that. And I started of course, renaming some of the characters, not Amber herself. I love the name Amber too much. I used my grandfather's last name as one of my other characters' last names, and I started to think about it, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's one of those things where pieces seem to fall into place and things start to kind of work out, which is how I know that I'm doing something right as a storyteller, is that when these pieces just seem to magically fall into place as if they were always meant to be that way, even if it maybe takes you some effort to figure out where these pieces go, but sometimes they just fall into place, and it's like, you know, it just, that's how you know. It's almost makes it easy to make that decision to keep that, because you know that that's the way that it's supposed to be. And I changed another character's name. I named him after 3 different authors who I like. I'll just tell you, his name is Edgar Lewis Frost, because people from Barbados, there's a history with England, and so there's a character who's from England in this story, and his name is Edgar Lewis Frost. Bonus points if you can figure out which 3 authors that's named after. I don't think it will be that difficult. And so that's what I've done a little bit of. I changed some other characters' names, and I'm still trying to figure out some other characters' names who would have to change, but those are kind of the main ones. And so I'm just really, I just feel good about it, you know? Anyway, that's all that I have to say about Pitchfork. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Toodaloo. I just hit my glasses. I haven't done Toodaloo in a while.